We see President-elect Trump and First Lady Melania Trump at the National Cathedral right now. We have seen, I think this is the first president that we've seen come into the room. We are still waiting, of course, for Bush and Clinton and Obama, as well. There is Donald Trump and Mike Pence. Al Gore, the former vice president, Pence and Trump. It's the first time they've seen each other since January 2021. A lot of tension between the two then, and it didn't look particularly warm just now, one might observe. In any case, this is the first president of many that we're expecting. Of course, we expect President Biden to deliver eulogy. President Biden, back when he was a senator, he and Jimmy Carter shared a political advisor, Pat Caddell. And Pat Caddow, there's former President Obama walking in. First Lady Michelle Obama is not going to be with him today, but here he is joining the club, saying hello to Mike Pence, saying hello to Mike Pence's wife Karen, saying hello to Al Gore. We did not see a greeting of or by President Trump. There he is saying hi to Marilyn Quayle. Did shake hands?
He did shake.
He shook. Okay, I couldn't see it from the angle I was at. Obama and Trump sitting next to each other, talking to each other there. But President Obama did say hello to Marilyn Quayle and former Vice President Dan Quayle.
Oh, that's such an image.
That is an image.
It's
I mean,
good,
you don't
good
see it's always striking whenever you see any of these people who were political opponents. Although Obama and Trump never ran against each other. Here's George W. Bush and First Lady Laura Bush.
No.
Interesting how Barack Obama stood up to let them through. Again, saying hello to the former vice presidents, Al Gore, Mike Pence, and George W. Bush.
I may have missed it, Jake, but I do not think former President Bush or Laura Bush shook hands with.
They walked right past it.
With the Trumps.
I would
right
find
by.
that very surprising if they didn't. Maybe we didn't see that.
We might not have seen it. The angle keeps shifting back and forth.
Right.
I'd still have it.
But you see Barack Obama and Donald Trump having what seems like friendly chit-chat. There's former President Bill Clinton with First Lady and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton walking around. On the other side, it's of course the closest to the seats, but also avoids the potential awkwardness of a moment between the Trumps and the Clintons that might not be as warm as the ones she's having with the former vice president. So let's go to Caitlin Collins, who's outside the cathedral.
I mean, Jake, to be able to hear those conversations that are happening, these are just moments that you don't see hardly ever. And just to go back to that moment where Trump walked into the room and shook hands with Mike Pence, that is the first interaction that those two have had. They have not even been in the same room in 4 years. I called to just double check that this morning with a few aides of both of theirs. And it just was a moment to see them come and shake hands with one another. And Jeff, obviously to see this moment, Jeff, you covered President Obama. To see the two of them speaking to one another, seated next to one another, which I don't think they have been at one of these funerals or gatherings where they've been in the same room before.
They have not. It truly is extraordinary. The last time most of them were in the same room was in 2018 at the funeral of George H.W. Bush. President Trump was in office then. One person missing from this is Michelle Obama. I'm told by her advisors that she had a scheduling conflict. She's actually still in Hawaii from an extended holiday vacation. So she's missing there. But if you look from these presidencies, they are linked one to another to another. That's how it works. Of course, and Hillary Clinton, seeing her there. Jimmy Carter, as you'll remember, Casey, we covered the Bernie Sanders campaign. Jimmy Carter supported him over her. So there are so many rifts between and rivalries between these former presidents. But today, for at least, you can see them. There is comedy and somewhat of a camaraderie.
Well, they're united in a unique way now that they have all won the right to be a part of the fraternity. But as you point out, they are, before arriving to the Oval Office, fierce rivals with those. And in in the case of the way our politics has played out in recent decades, you have seen members of the same families running for president. Two Bushes serving as president of the United States. Obviously, one Clinton serving, the other running. And this extended conversation between Donald Trump and Barack Obama, just so fascinating, especially when you think about how some of the things that Donald Trump said and did while Obama was president, while your point is taken, they didn't run against each other. It was so incredibly personal.
Yeah, he claimed he wasn't an American citizen.
And of course, as
when
Caitlin
here comes
noted
in the
before,
room Vice President Harris and Doug Emhoff also entering the room. Harris is right behind President Biden in her motorcade, so obviously we should expect to see him soon as well. And as we know, we're thinking as Gerald Ford's son is going to be reading his words, his eulogy for President Carter here. I was thinking this morning, about how Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter both in a way had President Nixon to thank for coming into office, and to look at this rare club here known as the President's Club. So many of the trajectories of their presidencies is what led their successor to then get into office with Biden and Trump, and to see this moment as Trump and Obama are continuing that conversation. And with second gentleman Doug Emhoff there, Vice President Harris there, Jake, the only person we are waiting on is President Biden himself.
That's right, and it is tempting to try to read into what is going on in terms of who stood up for whom and who said hello to whom and who walked over to whom and who did not. We should also remember that this is a funeral, and people are, generally speaking, trying to behave in a somber and appropriate tone. For evidence of that, just look at the normally backslapping, garrulous Bill Clinton and George W. Bush, both of whom are fairly restrained. It is a funeral of a member of their club, the President's Club. That said, it can't be easy for people in that group who have heard nasty things said about them by one or another of the people present. Whether somebody saying that Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy, or some of the more vicious things said about Barack Obama and where he was born, and on and on. But it is a funeral, and it is a moment where people try to put aside such grievances for the larger purpose, Anita.
I think you make a good point there, Jake, but it conjured up a memory that I have from Bush 41's funeral, when all the former presidents, for whom first families, everybody were seated. George W. Bush was one of the last people to come in the room before the sitting president, of course, and he went and shook every single person's hand of his former club and former first ladies. And again, it does, yes, this is a reverent moment, of course, but it does take a person of character to sort of change that tone.
I just want to, it's not happening right now, but I just want to emphasize that until 30 seconds ago, Donald Trump was talking to Barack Obama's ear off.
Yes.
His ear off.
I like seeing that, actually.
Well, I'm not sure how much Barack Obama liked it, but he was being gracious and classy, as one does. And now, of course, he's turned around and he's talking to the man who was Donald Trump's vice president, but was not chosen for this particular time after his life was threatened. Mike Pence's life was threatened on January 6, 2021. But just that moment, because
here's President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden. I think he has 11 days left as President of the United States. Obviously, an eventful year, one that he did not plan for. Started the year as the would-be Democratic presidential nominee, and we all know what happened after that. Again, you didn't see a particularly warm greeting between the first couple and the second couple, but again, we are at a funeral, so one has to take that into account when trying to read the body language of the individuals there.